Welcome to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I am Bob Sheritz, and we are calling this today Motivation Monday. I know, right? I don't know exactly where that came from, but I have, if you've noticed, have this thing I do every Monday where I ask listeners and those sitting in with me to take a moment and reflect upon what we have to be grateful for. You know, I get really, really grateful on Mondays, and this sort of triggers that for me as I really look forward to facing the week full of challenges. What used to be problems now are presented as opportunities, and that is not something that just happened overnight. That takes a lot of practice for people to do, to have a really conscious awareness that anything that's presented in my life is an opportunity for me to grow, change, initiate change in someone else, and these don't have to be problems. And so if we practice that, and maybe Mondays, as I remind you that we are going to call this Motivation Monday and Gratitude Monday, that we take a moment to reflect upon the things that we have to be grateful for, and this wonderful, beautiful opportunity of a week that is sitting in front of us with so many opportunities to help people that come into our lives, to give as much as we possibly can, to ask for help, to interact with people, and just to have a wonderful week that maybe that jumpstarts it and jumpstarts that practice. And if we continue practicing that maybe we can get to a place where it becomes the automatic, where I automatically look at the world as an opportunity for me to grow with all of its difficulties and challenges and everything else. So this is the Way Out Recovery Hour, brought to you by The Way Out. We are an intensive outpatient treatment center in the Santa Clarita Valley. We serve a population of adolescents, adults, and their families. Our primary focus is substance use disorders. So that includes alcohol and other drugs. But we also know that we live in a world where mental health specific issues oftentimes co-occur with substance use disorders. And so our treatment center provides treatment for both of those things with a primary focus on substance use disorders. We are located on the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. Our phone number is 661-296-4444, or you can look us up and check out our really super duper awesome website at thewayoutrecoveryscv.com. And, we have been open for going on 3 months now. And we would like to take this opportunity today to thank the community of Santa Clarita. We weren't really sure before we opened how the reception was going to be. We're opening in the context of a topic or a subject or a business that is not very easy to talk about. Not everybody in the world, like us, walks around on a day-to-day basis talking about recovery and drug use and the problems that come along with it and all that different stuff. And so you're never quite sure when you open that topic or you open that sort of a business, what kind of reception you're going to get, and we want to take the time to thank Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita is unlike any other community. I was going to say that I've ever lived in, but it's the only community that I've ever lived in. But it is unlike many, many communities, I think, in the sense that we are willing to talk about the tough issues. Not only willing to talk about the tough issues, but willing to initiate programs and events and projects and discussions publicly about the drug problem. Not the drug problem in Santa Clarita, but the drug problem, right? The epidemic that is sweeping not only our city, but the nation and elsewhere in the world. And so I want to thank Santa Clarita. We want to thank Santa Clarita for embracing us when our doors open. We've gotten a lot of community support. And along with all of that community support, we have also gotten some questions because, Santa Clarita is a pocket community. Although we have almost 300,000 people that live here, it is hometown. It is small town. It is bump into your neighbor everywhere you go, bump into the people that you grew up with everywhere you go kind of town, which makes it such a unique entity and such a beautiful place. But it also is now that you're open, the way out. And we have this idea of what drug treatment looks like because Santa Clarita has had drug treatment. What are you guys going to do that is different? What are you going to do to help our community? What are you going to do to provide services that may not look like everybody else? And so we want to answer those questions today. That is the topic of our show. It is, I'm the program director at The Way Out. And so I have a role that oversees all the direct treatment that goes on there, the day-to-day activities, staffing, all of that sort of thing, communication with other providers in the community, other entities inside and outside of Santa Clarita. And so that's my job title. But I will tell you that that we are one complete unit in this team. And I cannot express my gratitude enough for the beautiful team that we have over at The Way Out, And so we thought that we would bring the clinical team here today. Myself, Brenda Way, who is our clinical director. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Marriage and family therapist. And Melissa Flowers, who is our primary counselor. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Bob.
We thought we would bring the team together today to sort of look at, okay, let's look at it. Let's look at what appropriate treatment is. Let's look at some other different treatment that we are providing over there. Let's look at the successes so far in our 3 months, because we have clients over there. We have, a fair number of clients, and we're having some real big successes with the clients that have started with us, and it's wonderful to watch these families grow, And so we're going to look at that stuff. But I think before we do that, I want to spend a few minutes on this first segment talking about a very important issue that is happening right now. Summer's almost over. And when I say summer's almost over, I'm not talking seasonally. It's going to be really, really hot for a couple more months. So don't put away your swim trunks when I say summer is over. But school will be starting up. Some of the schools and some the kids are going back to school as early as next week.
Yes.
And one of the populations that we work with is the adolescent population. We also work with families, both with our adult populations and our adolescent populations. It's a very important piece of treatment. But with our adolescent populations, one of the things that we are very, very much aware of are what are the stressors that go on inside of young people's lives and in their minds, and especially in the sense of that can exacerbate drug and alcohol use and other behaviors. When we're talking about adolescents, a lot of times there's drug use going on, but a lot of times there's not drug use going on, but there are other methods that they use to either act out or cry out or ask for help or whatever you want to call it. And so when we talk about adolescent treatment, it's certainly not specific to drug use. There are so many different issues. But stress and the stressors inside of the teen life are very high. There's a lot going on. I could ask anybody in the room if they would want to go back to the age of about 12, 13, 14 years old.
No, thank you.
And
No.
all the social aspects of that and all the figuring out how to fit in and all the school stuff and all the hormonal changes that are going on. And, I think about what a confusing time that was for me personally. And I just want to sort of, if I had hair, I'd want to pull my hair out. But it's a very stressful time. And so school is starting back up next week. Right now, kids are registering.
Yeah.
Parents that are listening to the show, and we have all three of us, Mark's over there, all four of us are parents ourselves.
Right.
And so we know what that looks like. Let's help our parents and our kids out there transition back into school.
Nice.
Melissa, I'm going to pick on you.
Okay.
So I love you and your family very much. You know, shout out to Ronnie and to Richard. Richard is Melissa's husband, and Ronnie is her 12-year-old daughter. And Ronnie is making a big change in her life right now.
Right.
She's going from elementary school to junior high school.
Yep.
As a mom, helping your kid transition from summertime not only back into school, but from summertime into a big change from elementary to junior high school is a big transition. What do you do to help her out?
Well, we get back on a schedule, which looks like going to bed at a decent hour, starting to study for what's next, and keeping open communication with her. Because she is nervous about the transition from elementary to junior high, the new school, new friends, new classes, the unexpected. And I try to keep that communication with her that she can always come to me. But we do have the drug and alcohol talk quite often.
Right.
Yeah, to the point of, okay, Mom, I get it. I know what to do and what not to do. I get it. So
I'll tell you, oftentimes when I have parents that come to us and they have children that are around the same age as Ronnie, I say, talk to Melissa, because not only because you really are knowledgeable about what it's you not only knowledgeable, but you and Richard are such a great model of what healthy communication looks like with a 12-year-old daughter. I got to tell you that. You know,
it's really a cool thing.
Isn't it beautiful? You know, when you are talking to your kids enough about the dangers of drugs and alcohol and the other things that are in our society, to the point where they go, okay, Mom,
Yeah,
I've heard it
that's
enough. That means you're probably doing, now pay attention, folks, the minimum amount of talking that you should be doing on those topics right there. If your kid is not sick of hearing you talk about it, you should probably be talking about it more. Because the issues that we're facing in the junior high schools, that your kids are going to be facing in the junior high schools, are tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be exposed to all kinds of stuff going into, maybe not at the schools. I don't want to say that, oh my God, it's going on in the schools, but it is on some level. But before school, after school, lunch breaks, in between, all that kind of stuff, that we really need to have that open communication. And you guys are a wonderful model for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's a lot of stress. There's so much pressure for kids when it comes to school, but I think it's also important to take into consideration the amount of stress there is for parents. It's a huge dynamic shift for parents also. I know when I was raising a teenager in particular, I got scared when she turned 13, because 13 was about that age where my life got weird.
What's the first time where teen comes into the age, right?
teen.
Yeah. No, now it's preteen at 12.
Oh, got it.
Tweens.
You know, yeah, she says she's a tween.
No.
Yes. Well, and I think it's really easy. For me, speaking for myself, when my daughter Amanda was young, I projected my fear all over her.
Yeah.
My fear was big, and I was so terrified of what could happen or what would happen. I didn't give her the opportunity to have enough open conversation with me. And I didn't realize I was doing that. It was instruction rather than, how are you feeling? What's going on with you? I wasn't able to hear her because all I could hear was the screaming in my head that says, oh my gosh, this is scary.
Yeah, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right?
Mm-hmm. So be able to listen to our kids, no matter what they are, at what age, and to be able to reach out to another parent and say, I'm struggling, I'm nervous and I'm scared, what have you done? Right. That's a wonderful opportunity for people to connect in that way.
I think one of the bravest things that we'll ever do is to ask for help and say, I don't know.
Right.
To be able to say, I don't know. And as parents, you know, we think it's our job to have all the answers for our kids or something, right?
Yeah.
And I think that healthy communication includes, I love when, you know, my boys are young, and I love when Jack comes to me, Jack's the oldest, when Jack comes to me and he says, hey, Dad, what about this? And I'm able to say to him, I'm not really sure, Jack. Let's research it together.
Right.
Let's go find the answer together, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that is such a wonderful thing to do, is to go out and find the answers together. Ask other parents, for both of you. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing you say is that, Brenda, listening is an important part of healthy communication, right?
Shocking, right? Who knew? And listening without thinking about what I'm going to say next. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you talked about projecting our, and I think we all get this, projecting our own fears onto those around us and our kids,
Sure. Oh, and not just what might go through, but what are other people going to think of me if my child goes through this?
Right.
It's a scary thing. There's a lot of pressure for parents also that needs to be dealt with.
I think that's one of the most freeing, we've done, over the years, I've done tons and tons and tons of multifamily groups. And every once in a while, you'll get a parent who has enough clarity or insight to be able to say just that right there. Is that I've been so focused on what my kid is doing wrong or right, only because, maybe not only, but a big part of it is because I'm afraid of how it's going to reflect on me as a parent.
Sure.
It is such a brave statement to be able to say that, because sometimes that's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't want to say that. I don't want to say I'm so selfish that it's, you know what I mean?
It's all about me.
It's all about me, and how am I, I don't want people to look at me as a bad parent and all that stuff. But how freeing is that? To
and
be
I
able
think
to say
we all
that?
go through it. I think all parents go through it. That concern about not just one, but all. It's the big picture. It's scary.
Yeah. So we got the school books, we got registration done, we got some pencils and pens and paper, we got her a new backpack, maybe some nice new tennies ready to roll.
Right.
And we got all of that stuff ready to go. We're having the drug talk.
Yes.
Hey Ronnie, what are you gonna do when a cute boy comes up to you and says, have you heard about smoking pot? What do you think about that? Or maybe even try this or whatever, right? Like,
Yes, we've had that conversation, and the first response is typically, "It's okay. I don't like boys yet." So
you're like,
that clears me up for a minute. That's a whole nother subject, the boy subject. But we've had the talk. What are you going to do when the friends that you want to hang out with, that's what they're doing? That's what's considered cool. And what she says right now is, I don't think it's cool. And unfortunately, she's witnessed it in her own family. The use of drugs, the use of alcohol, what it can do to people. So right now she has a healthy fear of using or drinking or participating in that. We talk about peer pressure. What are you going to do when the so-called cool kids, want you to hang out with them and do that? She has, her response is usually, I won't. I'll say no. I'll tell you. I've even had her friends come to the house and say, tell me about what you do for work. I want to know about drugs and alcohol. I check with their parents, and if it's okay with their parents, we have a healthy talk about drugs and alcohol with her friends. And they're usually more interested than she is, because she already knows. She kind of just rolls the eyes and again. And
right.
But her friends are interested. They're asking questions. They're 12 and 13, two of her friends that come over, and they want to know. What do I do? What do I say? How do I act? What are they going to ask me? What drugs are out there? So.
You mentioned something interesting, Melissa, the word peer pressure. And that's a common phrase. I think we all have a tendency to use it. And when I was growing up, I was never pressured. Not once ever. I was never pressured to drink or to use drugs. It was an internal pressure. If I wasn't participating in what was going around me, I felt left out, and I wanted to be part of. Nobody ever said, if you don't do this, we're not going to like you. But it was the thing inside that motivated me towards dangerous behavior. And there's something to be said for being able to help your child understand that there are options.
Yeah, and I think some of the greatest work that we do in our family groups over at the Way Out is, and in the individual groups as well, and in individual sessions, I think some of the greatest work that we do is not even about how do we not use drugs. It's not even about the education on drugs. Right. It's the more important work.
Yeah.
The more important work is for me to assess and look at my entire history of what has driven me to feel like I don't fit in, to feel like I need to participate in knowingly dangerous behaviors so that people will think I'm cool.
Right.
What is it about me that doesn't like me very much? and sometimes that is internal, and sometimes that comes from, unfortunately, external circumstances. And I think the greatest work that we can do, on the way over here, I'm sort of an education nerd. I think I haven't known Melissa long enough to know whether or not she is, but I know that Brenda and I share that in common.
Information junkie.
Yeah, if we could just go to school for the rest of our lives, I think, and sit in a classroom, we would probably do that.
It'd be perfect.
And be able to share that information. But one of the things that I love to do is I love to listen to educational presentations. So on the way over here, right, Dr. Stephanie Covington, who's a really famous doctor in the world around around women and girls and traumatic issues. That's her specialty. So we're listening to that in the car on the drive over here, and it's all about trauma and abuse and neglect and the horrible tragedies and suffering and the
amazing amount of violence that happens specifically in America.
Right.
And so we parked the car. I'm like, now that I've gotten you guys all in such a great mood, like, let's go have the show. But we're never too far from that. And that's the kind of work that I'm talking about that is really important that we're doing at the Way Out. Is let's look at those traumatic events. Let's look at the way that you view yourself. Let's look at the things that drive you that are unpleasant. Let's look at your suffering in a safe and warm and loving space.
By the time someone gets to a point in their life where they feel they have enough of a problem with drugs or alcohol that they come looking for help, it's like they're coming with this thing in the palm of their hand and they're saying, wow, look at this horrible thing that's going on and I don't know what to do with this. But that's like pulling a plug out of a swimming pool. And when you pull the plug out and you say, look, here it is in my hand, you're not looking at everything pouring out of the swimming pool. Right. And that's the stuff that's important to look at. What's coming out behind this? What's driving it? What's this been plugging?
So we will talk more about that. We're going to get into specifically what our expertise is over there, why we make such a great team, what we're offering to our clients over at The Way Out, and some of the things that we are doing differently. I'm Bob Sheritz. This is The Way Out Recovery Hour, and we'll be right back.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call The Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
What to do, what to do. Your child's birthday is almost here. Put your birthday plans on ice. Ice Station Valencia. Throw a hassle-free party for 10 or more with an Ice Station party package. Public skating, rental skates, group lesson, birthday cake, pizza, soft drinks, party favors, and a decorated party area. Your party hostess will have a gift for your birthday child. For your fun ice skating party, call 775-8686 and keep your party cool. Ice Station Valencia, across the street from Valencia High.
KHTS. We fall so hard. Now we gotta get back what we lost.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I am Bob Sheritz in studio with my super duper awesome team. I'm in studio with
Yay team.
That's right, Yay team, with Brenda Way, marriage and family therapist, who's also our clinical director at the Way Out, and our primary counselor, Melissa Flowers. And I can't say enough about our team. Can't say enough. Before I go any further, I want to remind everyone that we are the Way Out. We are an intensive outpatient program serving adolescents, adults, and family members. We are located at the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon at 28118 Bouquet Canyon Road. Our phone number is 661-296-4444. I love that. All
great.
fours
All fours.
for help, right? Or
help.
something like that. And visit our website. We are at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. So I think that people are more prepared for the transition back into school from the first segment of our show. I think that we can't say enough about helping people to make that transition for their kids. And I believe that the biggest thing that came out of our first segment of our show, at least what I heard, was open communication all the time with your kids, spending as much time as you possibly can in this busy world. It's if you can spend all day with your kids till he gets sick of you, cool, whatever. But unrealistic maybe for a lot of people. But I'll tell you that the importance of being present in the moment with your kids, however much time, whether it's 2 to 10 minutes or an hour or 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Being present in the moment with your kids, shutting off the phones, spending time actually listening and talking to each other. And if you can, one of the tools that I like to give is make a family day or something for your family. Make some family time. Do stuff with your family that makes a statement that says that you are as important, actually more important than anything else in my life.
That it's a priority. Absolutely.
That you are a priority.
Yeah.
That communication with you, that relationship with you is more important than anything else in my life,
And I think it's important to note that it's never too late to do that. Ideally, we will start doing that with our children when they are small. But if you have teenagers that are angry, start now. Start now, right? Let's just talk. Be mad at me, that's okay, but let's just talk. I'm mad too. To have any kind of communication where that child feels valued, it goes a long way.
And if you're starting now and you have an angry 40-year-old teenager that you want to open that communication with, that's not too late as well.
Correct.
Always. One of the things, I think one of the reasons that we continue day after day to purposely put ourselves in the midst of suffering is because we can see that there is always the possibility of change.
Absolutely.
Always in the worst of situations, I certainly could name 100 different hopeless situations that I thought would never change, and that did, and I always go back to maybe the three of us, maybe we're all models of that, but I'll tell you that I'm a model of that, is that everybody in my life, if you would have asked them before that dramatic change took place, they would have said there is absolutely no hope for Bob.
Right.
That guy is going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and maybe, he won't die.
I actually said it more than once.
Oh, thanks, pal.
You're welcome.
But we lose hope, right? And so when Brenda makes the statement that it's never too late, it absolutely is never too late. Start to make the change today and see what takes place. It ain't going to change overnight.
Right.
It's not going to happen in one talk. When you're talking about communication with your daughter, that's not a one-time conversation.
No, it's not. Ask her. She'll tell you.
Right.
It's an all-the-time conversation. But her favorite thing that we've done since she was little is family game night. We take everything, put it aside. We let her pick what game, what kind of game, and we play.
That's important.
That's
We play at
beautiful.
least once a week, and she's all for it, even at 12. She's picking out games, lining them up for the next week.
Yeah.
Trying to. It's healthy. I love that. That's
See,
something that I
I'm
love.
not just saying it. You guys, I don't just say stuff. You guys are, God, that's one of the reasons why you're such a wonderful model of healthy communication in a family.
Thank you.
And this is healthy communication coming on the heels of devastation.
Yeah.
It's not like we just have always been healthy,
We've
right?
just always been this.
Right. You pick up pieces and you learn from it. And I think that it's possible in any family whatsoever. But the families that have been devastated by addiction, it's once you're in the world of trying to make that change and you've dedicated your life to it, how much more meaningful it is.
And how much better she feels about our relationship and the trust that's beginning to grow again. And she knows if I say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And that's all come from this process of recovery for me, for our family, not just me, but it affected the whole family. So.
Well, to translate that into a bigger picture, the way that we live our lives today, it is understood when the three of us committed to being in the profession of recovery, in the world of helping others, in the purposeful pursuit of easing suffering, and we made a conscious effort to do that. One of the commitments that we also made is for us to live and be models of what that recovery looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we cannot be living one life over here and trying to give that to our clients.
Correct.
It just doesn't work. And what we do and the way that we are in our lives is a model for our clients, and we bring that to the clientele that we have. Each one of us has our strengths and our less strengths. Better. That's more positive,
Nice.
right?
Places where we could put some work.
Nice.
That's right. That's right. Our friend Jimmy. We all have this friend named Jimmy, and he says the room for improvement is the biggest room in my
That's
house.
right.
That's right. And right on. And our beautiful friend Jack, who used to say, if you work really hard at this for the rest of your life, you're going to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get a little bit better, and I'll take a little bit better, and I want to model that for my clients. But we all have our sort of specialty or our highlights or our strengths. And one of the things that that was such an attraction to you, Brenda, when we were looking for someone to be our clinical director, is your work that you do in a couple of different arenas, but primarily in work with families, in work with trauma, and in work with grief. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's present in almost everybody that walks through the door.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why is it so important for the Way Out recovery to have a family component and trauma-informed care as a standard part of our treatment?
Part of what you mentioned at the beginning of this segment was the idea of how drug addiction and alcoholism can devastate a family, and it does. There's a difference between a family who happens to have someone that suffers from alcoholism and drug addiction and the addicted family. It pervades every portion of the family, and that doesn't always happen, but more often than not, it does real wreckage, real damage. And aside from the devastation that the addiction does, I think it's important to look at how did it get here? What has been going on with this family all along that it got to this point? It's not a matter of we don't care. It's almost never we don't care. It's we don't know what else to do. We're not sure what to do with this. And so to be able to work with the whole system, I am of the opinion to work at the macrocosm, the huge big level is the only real way to have some kind of foundation to create real stable recovery on. Otherwise, we're taking an individual out of the rest of their life and saying, well, do this, this, and this, and everything will be okay. And we're sticking them back into the same old situations that was so overwhelming that they had to use and drink over in the first place. So we have to be able to look at all of that for them, and it starts with the family because they're the people we go home to.
And there are situations where an individual, for whatever reason, it's not possible for the families now to be part of that
Sure, but
treatment
family
process.
is what we make it.
And we understand that, and we, when someone comes in like that, take me, for instance, when I came into treatment, I built I was going to say, they adopted me, a family that allowed me to practice what it was like. When my family was ready to come back in, I was able to do that. It doesn't mean that a person who doesn't have family involved in their treatment can't recover.
Sure.
It just means that we have to take that into consideration and give them that education as well, is that you are not only facing the recovery process and all the challenges that come along with that, but now you're going to take that and you're going to have to continue to be a model of the recovery process inside of a system that is not in congruence or in line with that recovery process. And you're going to have to stay so steadfast in that recovery that recovery changes the system as well.
I think frequently when we're working with the addict or the alcoholic in the family, I hear frequently there's a tendency for family members to, let's say hypothetically speaking, one tries out Al-Anon. There's such a tendency to come back from Al-Anon and feel like they have been told this is your fault. And so I think there's some healing that needs to happen for the family also, not strictly for the benefit of the person suffering with the disease, but for the ones around them to understand Here's how you can help yourself. Here's how you can help them. Let's heal this whole thing, because this has all been about this one idea of this one very small problem. And this one small problem that walked in the door is just a tiny fragment of the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah, families oftentimes will come in thinking, okay, if
Fix
this,
my son.
Yeah.
if my son just stops using drugs, everything's going to be
Right.
fine. And they very quickly, sometimes slowly, but usually very quickly find out that, okay, my son's not using drugs anymore, and we still are a mess.
Right.
And what's going on? And what that does for us is it opens up an opportunity for us to go, okay, let's look at that macrocosm that you're talking about. Let's
Right.
look at that bigger picture.
Right.
Let's look at all the dynamics, sometimes multi-generational dynamics
Absolutely.
that are going on, ways that we communicate with each other, you know?
And when I say macrocosm, I mean all of it. What's going on with school? What's going on with your job? Do you have legal trouble? Do you have financial trouble? Let's talk about your diet and how much activity you get. Let's look at all of it, because we can't expect to be able to change one tiny portion and have real recovery. We might experience some relief that way, but to actually have real recovery creates some real change.
Yeah, I think it's almost been what I've witnessed in the last couple of months for our clients is it's almost takes them kind of a step back when we say to them, oh, you're having trouble with your school? Why don't you come in tomorrow? Let's make an appointment. And we're going to sit down and get on the phone with your school. And we're
Right.
going to sit in front of the computer and get you signed up for those classes you want to take. And we're going to, however long it takes, if it takes us all day long to sit with you and do that, then we're going to sit with you and do that, right? And they go, wow.
Yep.
I've never seen a place that does that. Let's sit down and personalize what some healthy eating practices look like.
Let's go out for a
you.
walk. Let's all get out of this building
let's
and go for a
hike while
walk.
we do it, right? And they're like, wait a minute, you never experienced that sort of thing, or maybe it's not never, but it's very rare that you take that a place takes that into consideration and actually follows through with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that really, really sets us maybe above or different, sets us apart, certainly. I don't want to say above. Certainly sets us apart.
It's different.
And when we start to look at all those different issues and heal those, the stress level of an individual goes down. When stress of not being able to go back to school has been sitting up here, you know, it takes a portion of my brain power and my emotional well-being away where I can't focus on recovery. So let's get that and take care of it.
Yeah.
Let's take that stressor off.
Yeah.
And it's all about relieving the stressors and taking away the excuses for being able to stay sober,
Well,
right?
you mentioned diet. If you want to continue to eat fast food 3 times a day, feel free. You're welcome to do that,
Right.
but you're not going to feel better.
Right.
Giving them simple education about some things that they can do in the bigger picture.
Exactly. One of the other, so we are in the world of drug and alcohol use, and I'll tell you that one of the really, really important things that we do is we try to look at relapse prior to it happening. There's a myth about recovery. You know, I've heard it said many times. Relapse is part of the addiction, and I want to say publicly, it does not have to be.
Correct.
It absolutely does not have to be. I know many people that have come into the recovery process and haven't had to go back out there and relapse. Now, I think we can avoid that by doing some real work ahead of time and looking at what are the obstacles that you're going to face as an individual that may cause you
Right.
to potentially relapse. One of the things that I've noticed in working with you, Melissa, is that you have not only a real knack for this, but you have a real education on it, and you've done a lot of work. And I just got the answer. You are an education nerd like Brenda and I,
Right.
because you've been out there researching this and looking at it. But you really, I tell people, Melissa's our relapse prevention expert. Sit down, let's come in and let's sit down with her and do relapse prevention work and spend some time individually in doing that. What does that look like?
Well, the first step that people who don't understand relapse should know is that it does happen gradually. A lot of people think I'm fine and then I just used, and they don't know how they got from point A to point B. And if we
So wait a minute, let me stop you real quick and just clarify that. The relapse is not just the drug use that happens, the recurring drug use that
Right.
happens. There's a whole process that leads up to that?
Exactly.
Okay.
People think that that's relapse. the saying no right before even ending up doing it. But that's the final stage. There are stages before that. And one of the key factors in relapse prevention is becoming aware of the signs.
Okay.
So,
So signs on a different level of a couple of different levels.
a couple different stages, yeah.
Mental, emotional, physical.
Yeah, emotional, mental, physical.
What would some of those symptoms be, Melissa? What would someone look for in themselves or in someone they love?
If you're looking at the emotional relapse, which is the first stage of what we're talking about, it may look like, not for everybody, but it may look like irritability, isolating, looking at other people's behaviors instead of your own, sharing, lack of sharing with others. But the main one for that is poor self-care. Just like you were talking about, Brenda. Not eating, not making healthier choices to eat, a lack of sleep. Those are some of the things that you might want to look for.
Interesting as you talk about that. And my head's going ding, ding, ding. Those are signs and symptoms of potential depressions,
Yeah.
anxieties. A lot of mental health issues have the same thing. You know, I think emotionally is probably the most difficult piece of this overall change. One of the commonalities between all addictions, I don't care what it is, whether it's codependency or dependency, whether it is a shopping addiction, a sex
Right.
addiction, whether they're process or the commonality between all those things is that we don't want to feel the way that we're feeling right now.
Right.
That the brain is under such stress for whatever reason that I'm going to do anything I can to change the way that I feel. And so feelings and emotion and being in touch with those and being able to not react to the
Right.
way that I'm feeling right now is one of the most important aspects of our recovery.
Well, and the most important part of the emotional is that you're not thinking about using. At that moment, you're really not thinking about using. You're still aware of the damage you did, but because of that, it's a lot easier to not recognize that you're slipping.
So then it goes into the brain, and then the brain starts to tell me story, and this is where the mental part comes in, right?
Right. Yeah. If you're not careful and you don't take self-care seriously, you will start to feel uncomfortable in your own skin.
So what are some of the thoughts that my brain? It's almost like I have two voices sitting inside of my head.
You do.
when
You have
I'm
a
in
battle
that,
going on.
Right? Like, there's a constant battle.
Not just
going on.
you. We all have a battle going on, and there are those thoughts. I want to use, but I don't want to use.
Right.
And we all, or at least me, have had those thoughts, but you don't have to use.
Right.
That's the key thing is when our mind tells us that, we don't have to listen to it.
And isn't that amazing? I mean, it really demonstrates to the power of addiction.
Right.
And certainly not everybody that uses drugs or drinks is an addict, but there is a percentage that has crossed that line. And the difference between those two populations is that it is so powerful that even with all of the negative circumstances that have just taken place in my life, I have crashed and burned. I've ruined my family. I've ended up in the hospital. My health's going to
Right.
the birds, right? With all of that going on, there's still this part of there's this
That thinks
voice in my
about it.
head that says, man, it would be, God, wouldn't a beer be good right now?
Exactly.
Right?
And
Yeah.
that's how quickly it goes from emotional to mental.
So, Melissa, let me ask a question. You said first stage is emotional. Would the mental component be the second stage?
That is the second stage.
So I'm feeling a certain way. It turns into a thought inside of my head.
Right. I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yep.
I start thinking maybe using would be beneficial. I start the battle in my mind. And then there are warning signs for the mental
and that's
relapse.
the physical is the third.
Physical
first-
is the third, yes.
where I'm starting to, and some of the physical things are things like this. I'm starting to call my old friends just to check in and see how they're doing. I'm starting to look at other people's drinking and count their drinks and go, man, you drink too much. I'm starting to romance and have conversations about remember when. So those are physical things
Those are
that go
the
on.
mental things
Right.
that go on. And one of the biggest ones with that is justification. Like, you'll start telling yourself, it wasn't that bad. I just need one. If I just have one, I'll be okay. It won't be like last time. But the biggest one for mental is lying to yourself and lying to others. We start bargaining with ourselves and others.
Yeah.
So we have to be aware that we're doing that.
So during that second stage,
Hey.
Melissa, if I were a family member of an addict or an alcoholic in that second stage, if I missed all the signs from the first, What would I be looking for in the second when it gets to the emotional? I mean, the mental, rather.
We're gonna address that as soon as we come back from this break right now. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sheritz. We'll be right back.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
Canyon Country now has a one-stop printing shop.
Feathers, photo signs and printing.
Feathers, signs, banners, business cards, embroidery, photo restoration, picture framing, car wraps, all under one roof.
Transfer your old videos, slides, and 8mm movies to DVD.
Print custom t-shirts and jackets with your team or business logo.
Create a banner for your school.
It's all possible at Feathers.
Feathers, you've driven by them daily on Soledad across the street from the Edwards Theaters next to the coffee kiosk.
Discover Feathers, Canyon Country's one-stop printing shop.
Attention all Antelope Valley classic rock fans, the Doobie Brothers are coming to the AV Fair Saturday, August 19th. Tickets for the Doobie Brothers are on sale now at avfair.com as part of the Palmdale Auto Mall Concert Series. Ticket prices for the Doobie Brothers concert on August 19th range from $20 for standing room only to $80 Gold Circle and include fair admission. To see the entire lineup for this year's Palmdale Auto Mall Concert Series, go to avfair.com. Buy your tickets now at avfair.com to see the Doobie Brothers, August 19th. For all fair information and to buy tickets, go to avfair.com.
Hometown Station. We fall so hard, now we gotta get back what we lost.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I am Bob Sheritz. We're going to very quickly get right back into where we left off because we only have a short segment left. Before the break, you were asking a question about the final stage or the stages of relapse, Brenda.
Well, I asked if stage 1 is emotional and stage 2 is mental, where now I'm thinking about it. If I'm a family member watching, do I see a difference between stage 1 and stage 2?
You don't really see a difference. It's more within the person. But at that final stage, right before the physical happens, you're already planning it. If you've gotten that far and you're not aware and you don't recognize what's happening, in a blink of an eye, you're going to be in the physical stage.
So
well,
if I'm
the trickiness of the disease part of addiction is that I may be doing that. I may be setting myself up for relapse and don't even know it.
Exactly.
And I don't even know it, right?
And you
Brenda?
don't even know it.
So if I'm a family member coming in with you for family groups and I'm learning this, it's going to be important for me to be aware of these things so I can help.
It's going to be very important that everybody that's going to be in the recovery process participates, because we might not know that we're doing it to ourselves, but maybe, if we're paying attention, we can notice it in a family member. But once you hit that final stage, you don't even know that you're there. You've relapsed, and now you think that's the beginning, but really that's the end. And what's really important for me is when I ask people to come in, we sit down and we do that. We write out, recognizing warning signs for them, triggers, coping skills, cravings, so that they're aware, because we might not even be aware. A lot of them come in, they're like, I don't know what you mean. And once we talk about it and they start writing it out, they have endless answers.
Well, and it certainly demonstrates back to the importance of open communication between the families. I want to be able to provide an environment where families can feel comfortable having that conversation all the time. So that if I'm your loved one and I see potential signs of relapse taking place in your life, that I can come to you and say, hey, Brenda, I've noticed A, B, and C, and I'm going to be able, because we've been working on our communication, that you will be able to respond with, thank you very much. I'm not able to see that. I'll be more aware of it, rather than back off, this may be a sign of relapse, that if my family member is coming at me and I'm like, back off, it's my recovery. Right?
And equally as important to be able to treat the family so that if I'm that family member watching it, I'm not projecting my fear saying, you have to, and you didn't,
Right.
to be able to approach it in a healthier way.
Right. And that's, a lot of creating a safe space. I call it, I've posted a few things on different social media, and I've been known to call it a sacred space. We have this, it's just a room. But we come in there and we take a few breaths and we create this space that we want to be so comfortable and so safe for anybody who walks through the room, that they can sit in there and go, okay, like I can open up about anything in here. Yeah. And I'm not going to be bashed for it. I'm not going to be treated differently for it. I'm not going to be shamed for it. I'm not going to be punished for it. We really believe in a non-punitive treatment approach. We don't teach our families, if they do this, take all the doors off the hinges.
Right.
That old tough love model, it went out the door a long time ago.
Yeah.
And although it may be in part beneficial to some of the clients that come in, like some of the clients need to feel some consequences. They need to have to weigh the options, but to be able to do that in a manner that isn't tough.
Something that's logical.
Let's take that out and just use the love piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. To be presented with love and compassion and caring, and here's what's going on. Because whether you're 16 or whether you're 60, ultimately we want you to be able to make the choices in your life that are going to be healthy for you.
Right.
We want you to be able to take charge of your recovery process.
Can I just say that, just as a side note, to be aware that relapse happens gradually. Recognize the warning signs, take care of yourself, share your feelings with others. If you're thinking about using or you're craving, tell somebody.
Right, tell on yourself.
Especially someone else who's suffering from the same addiction is going to understand. Yeah. And always ask for help, and know that you're not alone. There are so many of us out there that want to help you.
Right.
So that's like the biggest factors.
Well, we not only say it, but we've put it on our billboards and on our door that asking for help is the first step. And we've stated it a couple of times on a couple of different sort of topics in here.
Yes.
Is if I'm a parent, needs help with parenting, asking for help is the first step, right? If I am a recovering person who needs help with identifying my relapse, triggers, and then asking for help is the first step.
If I'm an adolescent and I don't know how to say no to my friends, ask for help.
Right.
Yeah, I love. Sometimes we'll role play that with our adolescents, with our adolescents and our young adults. Let's go through a whole role play day on school and how many times you're going to be hit up by your friends, and the people that you know. So, and one of the other things, we got a couple of minutes left, and I could spend that couple of minutes talking about what a wonderful team we are, and mean that 100%, and how much I love you guys, and I'm glad that we're doing this thing together.
Me too.
But there are some other things that set us apart from anybody else, and really, really, the bottom line is this, is that we want to provide treatment that is going to help give our clients and anybody else in the community the best chance that they have of combating this thing called addiction.
Right.
And that is the bottom line, is we are here to help. We want to help you. If anything that you've heard today, opening communication with your loved one, helping your teen into school, if you're having difficulty with those difficult things that are hard to talk about, please give us a call. We will gladly sit down with you and your family and help you through those conversations, and do everything that we possibly can, and again, our phone number, to put it out there to ask for help, is 661-296-4444. But also, that if you're having problems and you are in need of a place to go, come on over with us and we'll do all the wonderful stuff that we've talked about today. But not only that, we may end up going on some hikes. We may end up doing some paddle boarding. We may end up playing some drums and do all that wonderful stuff.
And
I'm Bob Sheritz. Sorry, Brenda, cut you right off. I'm Bob Sheritz. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour. We will talk to everybody next.
You're constantly on the go. Why not be on the go in the comfort, style, and safety of a new Nissan from Valencia Nissan?
Bob Bailey, Executive Manager at Valencia Nissan, where Bob or any of his helpful, friendly staff can assist you with incredible savings on summer specials on the 2017 Nissan Versa, Sentra, Altima, or the new Nissan Juke SUV.
You're always welcome at Valencia Nissan, where we make your automotive dreams come true.
Aloha, friends! We invite you to come by Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brewed coffee. What makes our coffee special is how our organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. We're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on...
Special report, Scaramucci out. I'm Rich Johnson. After just 10 days as President Trump's communications director, just an hour or two into John Kelly's tenure as the new White House chief of staff, Anthony Scaramucci is out.
This may be the storm before the calm.